Have you ever dreamed of pulling off the perfect crime? Walking away with a fortune and never looking back? Well, one man might have actually done it. This is the story of Bill Brennan, the casino cashier who walked out of the Stardust casino in Las Vegas with $500,000 and simply vanished into thin air. To this day, he remains one of America's most wanted fugitives, and his disappearance is one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in Las Vegas history. It was September 22, 1992. A typical Tuesday morning at the Stardust, one of the most iconic casinos on the Las Vegas Strip. The Stardust was a legend, known for its dazzling neon facade and its rumored mob connections. Inside, the hustle and bustle was in full swing. Slot machines chimed, cards were dealt, and fortunes were won and lost. But behind the scenes, something was about to happen that would make the casino infamous for a whole new reason. Our story centers on William John Brennan, known to his colleagues as Bill. He was 34 years old, a seemingly ordinary guy who had worked at the Stardust for 4 years. He was a sportsbook cashier, a position of trust. He was described as quiet, a bit of a loner, and generally a good employee. He lived in a modest apartment with his cat Mittens. On the surface, there was nothing about Bill Brennan that screamed master criminal. He didn't have a criminal record, he wasn't known to be in debt, and he didn't flash his money around. He was just Bill. But maybe that was the key to his plan. He was so unassuming, so average, that no one saw it coming. On that fateful September morning, Bill Brennan showed up for his shift as usual. He greeted his coworkers, went about his duties, and waited for the perfect moment. That moment arrived just before noon, as he was finishing his shift. He was supposed to be heading home for lunch. Instead, he calmly gathered $500,000 in cash and casino chips from the cashier cage, stuffed it all into a bag, and walked out the door. He just left. No guns, no violence, no dramatic getaway. He simply walked past security, nodded to a fellow employee on his way out, and disappeared onto the bustling Las Vegas Boulevard. For a while, nobody even noticed he was gone. Or more accurately, nobody noticed the money was gone. It wasn't until a routine audit was conducted later that day that the casino realized something was terribly wrong. A massive sum of money, $500,000 to be exact, was missing. Panic set in. The casino's security team scrambled, reviewing surveillance footage and interviewing staff. And that's when it all clicked. Bill Brennan, the quiet cashier, was the last person seen with the money. And now, he was nowhere to be found. When investigators went to his apartment, they found it practically empty. It looked like he had been planning his exit for some time. His cat Mittens was left behind, which many found strange. Could a man who loved his cat so much just abandon it? Or was it another calculated move to throw people off? They also found books about how to change your identity and disappear. One was titled The Modern Identity Changer. It became clear this wasn't an impulsive act. This was a meticulously planned heist, executed with chilling precision. The FBI was called in, and a nationwide manhunt began. Bill Brennan's face was plastered on wanted posters and featured on TV shows like America's Most Wanted and Unsolved Mysteries. Tips poured in from all over the country. People reported seeing him everywhere from New Orleans to Oregon. Each lead was followed, but each one led to a dead end. It was as if Bill Brennan had ceased to exist. So, what was his motive? That's the million-dollar question, or in this case, the $500,000 question. There were theories, of course. One popular theory was that Brennan felt slighted by the Stardust management. Rumor had it that he was recently passed over for a promotion to a supervisor position. Was this his ultimate revenge? A way to show them they had underestimated him. It's a compelling idea. Imagine working diligently for years, only to be overlooked. For some, that kind of resentment can fester and lead to drastic actions. Another theory suggests he had an accomplice. Pulling off a crime like this and disappearing so completely is incredibly difficult to do alone. Could a coworker have helped him? Or maybe a friend on the outside? Investigators looked into his associates, but no concrete evidence of a partner was ever found. If he had help, they were just as good at staying hidden as he was. And then there's the mob connection. The Stardust had a long and storied history with organized crime. Some speculate that Brennan might have been forced to commit the robbery by the mob, or perhaps he was trying to pay off a debt. But again, there's no proof. In fact, most experts believe this was a solo operation. Bill Brennan was the architect of his own disappearing act. What makes this case so fascinating is just how clean the getaway was. In 1992, casino security wasn't what it is today. Facial recognition was science fiction, and surveillance systems were far less sophisticated. Brennan exploited these weaknesses perfectly. He knew the casino's procedures, its blind spots, and the timing of shift changes. He used his inside knowledge to his advantage, turning his mundane job into the key to his escape. For years, the case generated countless tips. One of the most promising came a few years after the robbery. A man who claimed to have known Brennan said he had overheard him talking about wanting to move to Mexico or the Cayman Islands. But these leads, like all the others, went cold. Let's think about what happened to the money. $500,000 was a huge amount of money in 1992. Today, that would be worth well over $1 million. With that kind of cash, you could set yourself up for life, especially if you moved to a country with a lower cost of living. Did Bill Brennan start a new life on a tropical beach, sipping cocktails and watching the sunset? Did he change his name, his appearance, and build a new family, who have no idea about his past? It's a romantic, almost cinematic, image. But there's a darker possibility. Could he have met with foul play? Perhaps he bragged about his heist to the wrong person, who then robbed and killed him for the money. Or maybe an accomplice, if there was one, decided they didn't want to share the loot. It's a grim thought, but in the world of high-stakes crime, it's a very real possibility. Some investigators lean towards this theory, believing it's unlikely someone could stay hidden for so long without making a single mistake. The case was featured on America's Most Wanted multiple times. Each broadcast brought in a new wave of tips, but none of them panned out. One particularly interesting tip came from a former coworker who saw the show. He told police that months before the robbery, Brennan had asked him a strange, hypothetical question: what do you think would be the easiest way to steal money from the Stardust and get away with it? At the time, the coworker just laughed it off as a joke. In hindsight, it was a chilling piece of foreshadowing. Over the decades, the trail has gone completely cold. The FBI warrant for his arrest is still active. Bill Brennan is still on the list of most wanted fugitives for the theft. If he is alive today, he would be in his 60s. He could be anyone. Your neighbor, the guy at the grocery store, the quiet man at the end of the bar. He could have had plastic surgery. He could be living under a new name, a new identity, a new life, completely off the grid. The Stardust Casino itself is now gone. It was imploded in 2007 to make way for a new resort, a symbolic end to an era. But the legend of Bill Brennan, the ghost of the Stardust, lives on. His story has become a part of Las Vegas folklore, a cautionary tale for casinos and an inspiration for dreamers and armchair detectives. What do you think happened to him? Did he get away with it and live out his days in quiet luxury? Or did his perfect crime ultimately lead to his demise? It's a mystery that has stumped law enforcement for over 30 years. Brennan wasn't a violent criminal mastermind like in the movies. He was an ordinary man who saw an opportunity and took it. And in doing so, he committed one of the most audacious and successful heists in American history, and then simply vanished. The case of Bill Brennan reminds us that sometimes the most compelling mysteries aren't the ones with complex clues and dramatic shootouts, but the ones with a quiet, empty space where a person used to be. A person who just walked away and was never seen again. Thank you for watching. If you're fascinated by unsolved mysteries and true crime stories like this one, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next video. Let me know your theories about Bill Brennan in the comments below. See you next time.